This time you are on the bus. Let's go. We're going to the cliff top now. You're going to meet a couple of suffragettes. But where we're going back in time to go forward in time. Because we're now about to go on the old Roman road. Did you know Felixstory had a Roman road? Started in Ipswich. Came down the Felixstory road, up Bishop's Hill, down the Felixstory road, the sea wall down as far as the sailing club. It's not too difficult, it's not too far.
To pick everything up from the room, Florence?
Of course I did, Hilda dear.
We would not want any incriminating evidence to spoil our next little venture.
I quite liked Great Yarmouth. I thought it had a somewhat racy air.
Well, there's something else in the air now. Have you seen the papers?
£15,000 worth of damage. Did we do that?
Well, the Britannia does have a rather large pavilion.
I feel a bit sorry for the owner.
Oh, don't be. They would have been insured. Anyway, they're used to fires. The last one burnt down in 1909.
Really?
They say it was one of the largest buildings on the East Coast.
Oh, do they know who did it yet?
Well, there's known to be militant suffragettes in Lowestoft, and incriminating literature was found at the scene, including a postcard found by a boy with votes for women on the front.
You were right, Hilda dear. A boy will do anything for sixpence.
I think you're beginning to enjoy yourself, my dear.
There is nothing like a few days by the sea to lighten the spirits. And I enjoyed our country excursion.
A lovely day for it, I thought.
Oh dear, I wonder how soon our work will be discovered.
Well, if you lay the incendiary devices correctly, the effect should already have been felt.
Hilda dear, do you think this is quite the right thing to wear?
Don't you like it? I thought it went with the colour of your eyes.
And I thought we were meant to be working undercover.
First rule of undercover work, Florence. Always look conspicuous. That way you do not attract attention.
Oh, but I thought...
Well, think about it, my dear. If we skulked around in black hats and dark glasses, not only would we look like Guy Fawkes, but we would be the object of suspicion.
Well, we seem to have made an impression in Acton anyway.
Yes, and they're looking for a gang and not just two women, so that takes the pressure off us.
The device works well.
Phosphorus in sunlight, very effective.
I do feel a little for the farmer.
Oh, don't be. The stacks would have been insured. Anyway, the landlord is the MP Prettyman. Deserves everything he gets. Huh. Now, I wonder where we'd find Mr. Winks.
Hilda, if we hire a beach tent, will we not be expected to bathe?
If we hire a beach tent, we can do as we wish. Anyway, we need somewhere to keep our materials. I don't trust our landlady, Mrs. Meadows, not to do a little snooping around in our absence. And anyway, she expects us to be out in the day, so all the preparation will have to be done in the tent.
I'm not very happy happy with Ethel's choice of target.
The Bath Hotel? Why ever not?
Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't willingly want to harm anybody.
Well, Ethel assured us it was empty.
But we saw people coming in and out of the clubhouse.
The clubhouse, yes, but the hotel is being refurbished for the summer season.
Well, I don't know, I'm not sure.
Florence Tuggs, I'm surprised at you. You had no such qualms in Yarmouth.
Well, nobody lives on the pier or stays overnight.
Are you having doubts, my dear?
Well, no, it's just that. I sometimes wonder if Millicent Fawcett is not correct in her belief in passive protest, that's all.
Let me quote you a letter written by Bertha Brewster to the Daily Telegraph. Everybody agrees on the necessity of stopping these suffragist outrages, but no one knows how. I will tell you 2 ways. Both would be effectual. 1, kill all the women in the United Kingdom. 2, give women the vote.
But what if we get caught? How will we justify our actions?
We justify it by the suffering of our sisters in prison. Every day they are being abused, heaped with indignity, force-fed in appalling conditions. We are not anarchists. We agree with rule by legitimate government. But we have no legitimate say, and therefore we do not have a choice. Now, if we find Mr. Winks, if we ever find him, I'm sure he will put your mind at rest about the hotel. Don't fret, my dear. I am very experienced in these matters.
Do you think that might be him over there?
It very well might be. Leave the talking to me, dear. Mr. Winks!
Ladies?
We were looking to hire a beach tent. We were told that you could oblige.
Oh yes, and who told you that?
Mrs. Meadows, Maybush Cottage.
Ah, the lovely Mrs. Meadows. Keeps a respectable house, I'm told.
Yes, we're quite comfortable. Now about this beach tent.
What about it?
Can we hire one or no?
Well, that depends.
Depends on what?
Whether I got one available.
And have you?
Have I what?
Florence, I think we might have come to the wrong gentleman.
Well, who are you looking for?
Mr. William Winks.
Well, you are in luck, ladies, for I am the very man. Now, what can I do you for?
Florence, I think this gentleman is having a joke at our expense.
Wait, Hilda dear, let me try. Mr. Winks, we would like to hire one of your beach tents.
Well, why didn't you say so before? Down for a medicinal bath?
Yes, my friend here suffers with her nerves.
I've heard it's common among ladies, yes.
So?
Yes?
Can we hire a beach tent?
Well, that depends.
Depends on what?
Well, whether you got the wherewithal.
Wherewithal? Florence, you must continue these discussions. This gentleman only seems to speak your language.
Mr. Winks, how much would a beach tent cost?
For a day or a week?
For a week.
5 shillings.
And do you have one available?
I think number 11 is free.
Then number 11 we shall have.
When do you propose taking it on?
Would now be convenient?
Payment in advance?
Certainly. And Mr. Winks, could you recommend any good hotels? Only Mrs. Meadows can only accommodate us for a week and we might like to stay a little longer.
The Bath Hotel, for instance. Didn't the Empress of Germany stay there?
Oh yes, amongst others, but hotels closed.
Oh, but we saw people coming in and out of the clubhouse.
Oh yes, clubhouse is open, but hotels closed. Now, if you follow me, ladies, I'll show you to your tent. This way.
There you are, Florence. The hotel is closed and empty. I hope that puts your mind at rest.
Thank you, Hilda dear. I believe it has.
This way, ladies.
My dad was a Conservative politician and I followed his footsteps into Parliament at the tender age of 26, becoming private secretary to Lord Salisbury. After stints as Leader of the House of Commons and next Lord of the Treasury, took over as Prime Minister in 1902. I lost my seat in a Liberal landslide, but regained it soon after in a by-election and led my party in opposition until 1911. During the wartime coalition, I was Lord of the Admiralty and then Foreign Secretary under David Lloyd George. Not an easy time, let me tell you. Lloyd George said of me that he was a great statesman, a great patriot and a great gentleman, which was kind of him. But I think the legacy I will always be known for, and the controversy that's dogged my footsteps ever since, concerned a letter I wrote to Lord Rothschild that stated this: His Majesty's government view with favour the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. Although I also said that nothing should be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine. Now, this letter has become known as the Balfour Declaration and has formed the basis of much of the controversy in the area ever since. It's also damaged my reputation somewhat unfairly, I feel. There was also the Irish question, but that land has been the bane of many an able politician and has felled better men than I. When I was younger, other MPs believed I was merely playing at politics, and the efforts I've made as an older man seem destined to come back and haunt me. But in some respects they may have been right. I always did my best, but my interests first and foremost have been poetry, music, philosophy and golf. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is not of politics I wish to speak to you, but my first love, the great and singular game of golf. Give me my golf clubs, my leisure, my tools, and I would ask for little more. My ideal in life is to read a lot, to write a little, to play plenty of golf and have nothing to worry about. It's not always possible, of course. East Lothian was a marvellous place for golf, let me tell you, but not always easy to get to, working in London as I do. So it was much easier with the arrival of the railways in 1870 to pop over Felixstory for a few rounds. Lord Elcho, MP for East Gloucestershire, obsessive golf enthusiast, created the London and Scottish Golf Club in Wimbledon, the third oldest in the country. He became a regular visitor to Felixstory. It became a popular seaside resort with the opening of the railways, due to his friend Colonel Tomlin. Links Golf at Bordsey Common, also owned by Tomlin, was soon in Elcho's sights, and after a very successful August Bank Holiday meeting, Felixstowe Golf Club was created in October 1880. Yours truly became club captain a few years after, and I have to say this was one of the happiest periods of my life. Tom Dunn, the professional from Wimbledon, laid out 15 holes, and to begin with, the Martello Tower was used as the clubhouse. Frederick Wilson, who created the East Anglian Daily Times, was the first honorary secretary and club captain the year before me. And in 1894, a ladies' club was created with a separate clubhouse and 6 holes on the seaward side of the main course. Unfortunately, all this was eventually swept away by the sea. During the war, of course, the club was wound up and the clubhouse used for billeting, but it's up and running again now, and I shall be down here as often as my duties allow. As I've got older, it's a windy place here in Felixstowe. Can be a bit treacherous at times, but I love it. And as I've got older, I have sincerely felt that nothing matters very much, and few things matter at all. What does matter is allowing ourselves time to think, to enjoy our recreation, and to commune with our inner spirit. Golf gives me all of that, which is why I will continue to play as long as I am able. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We will now continue our journey through the golf course towards the ferry.
ghosts swarm. They speak as one person. Each loves you. Each has left something undone. Oh, whistle and I'll come to you, my lad. A ghost story by M.R. James. I suppose you'll be getting away pretty soon, now full term is over, Professor, said his neighbour soon after they'd sat next to each other in the hospitable hall of St. James's College. Yes, he said, my friends have been making me take up golf this term, and I mean to go to the east coast, in point of fact, to Felixstory. In point of fact, to Burnstow, for a week or 10 days, to improve my game. Oh, Professor Parkins, said his neighbour, if you are going to Burnstow, I wish you would take a look at the site of the Templars' Church, and let me know if you think it would be any good to have a dig there in the summer. The site must be quite close to the beach now. The sea has encroached tremendously, as you know, all along that bit of coast. I should think from the map that it must be about 3/4 of a mile from the Victoria Inn. About 3/4 of a mile from the Globe Inn at the north end of the town. Where are you staying? Well, at the Globe Inn, as a matter of fact. I have engaged a room there. I couldn't get in anywhere else. Most of the lodging houses are shut up in winter, it seems. On the south, you saw the village of Burnstow. On the north, no houses were to be seen, but only the low cliff backing it. Immediately in front was a strip of rough grass, dotted with old anchors, capstans and so forth. Then a broad path, then the beach. Whatever may have been the original distance between the Globe Inn and the sea, not more than 60 yards now separated them. Bleak and solemn was the view on which he took one last look before setting homeward. A faint yellow light in the west showed the links, on which a few figures moving towards the clubhouse were still visible. The squat Martello Tower, the lights of Bawdsey Village, the lights of Aldsley Village. The pale ribbon of sands, intersected at intervals by black wooden groinings, the dim and murmuring sea. The wind was bitter from the north, but at his back when he set out for the Globe. He quickly rattled and clashed through the shingle and gained the sand, upon which, but for the groinings, which had to be got over every few yards, the going was both good and quiet. One last look behind him, to measure the distance he'd made since leaving the Templars' Church, showed him the prospect of company on his walk, in the shape of a rather indistinct personage who seemed to be making great efforts to catch up with him, but made little, if any, progress. By that, I mean that his movements had an appearance of running, but that his distance did not materially seem to lessen. He decided that he almost certainly did not know him, and that it would be absurd to wait for him to come up. For all that, company, he thought, would really be most welcome on that lonely shore, if only you could choose your companion. What should I do now, he wondered, if I looked back and saw a black figure sharply defined against the yellow sky, and saw that it had wings and a tail? I wonder whether I should run or stand. As he went along the passages of the Globe Inn, a servant stopped him and said, "I beg your pardon, sir, but as I was a-brushing your coat just now, something fell out of the pocket. A piece of pipe or something of that, sir. You'll find it on your chest of drawers, sir." The speech served to remind Parkins of his little discovery of that afternoon. It was with some considerable curiosity that he turned it over by the light of his candles. It was of bronze, he now saw, and was shaped very much after the fashion of the modern dog whistle. He blew tentatively and stopped, startled and yet pleased at the note it had elicited. It had a quality of infinite distance in it, and soft as it was, he somehow felt it must be audible for miles around. It was a sound, too, that had the power of forming pictures in the brain. He saw quite clearly for a moment an image of a dark expanse at night, with a fresh wind blowing, and in the midst, a lonely figure. How employed, he could not tell. Perhaps he would have seen more, had the picture not been disturbed by the sudden surge of a gust of wind outside his window, so sudden that it made him look up just in time to see the white glint of a seabird's wing somewhere beyond the dark panes. He must have slept soundly for an hour or more, when a sudden clatter shook him up in the most unwelcome manner. A very bright, frosty moon was shining on his face. For some minutes he lay and pondered. Then he turned over, sharply, and with his eyes open lay breathlessly listening. There had been a movement, he was sure, in the empty bed on the opposite side of the room. Tomorrow he would have it removed, for there must be rats or something playing about in it. It was quiet now. No! The commotion began again. There was a rustling and a shaking, surely more than any rat could manage. A figure suddenly sat up in what he'd known was an empty bed. He was out of his own bed in one bound and made a dash towards the window. The personage in the empty bed, with a sudden, smooth motion, slipped from the bed and took up a position with outstretched arms between the two beds and in front of the door. Parkins watched in horrid perplexity. Somehow, the idea of getting past it and escaping through the door was intolerable to him. He could not have borne, he did not know why, to touch it. And as for its touching him, he'd sooner dash himself through the window than have that happen. It stood, for a moment, in the band of dark shadow, and he had not seen what its face was like. Now it began to move, in a stooping, groping posture. Seemed to feel about it with its muffled arms, in a random way. Turning halfway from him, it became suddenly conscious of the bed he'd just left, and darted towards it, and bent and felt over it, in a way which made Parkins shudder as he'd never thought it possible. In a very few moments, it seemed to know that the bed was empty, and then, moving forward and into the area of light, it showed for the first time what manner of thing it was. He could not keep back a cry of disgust, and this gave the searcher an instant clue. It leapt upon him on the instant, and the next moment he was halfway through the window backwards, uttering cry upon cry in the utmost pitch of his voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go and find out about Martello Towers.
My name is Samuel Leggett, builder by trade. I work for Mr. Edward Hodges. I've been foreman at the construction of these Martello Towers ever since they started. I've been supervising the work, ensuring it's delivered on time and within budget. Well, on time at least, not necessarily the budget. I haven't always been a builder. My family had a farm at Laxfield, a small village in Suffolk. We didn't own the farm. I was one of 8 brothers, and I decided soonest to seek my fortunes elsewhere. I was in the army for a bit when I was younger, but I got wounded, and that's why I had to seek other employment. It was in the army that I met Mr. Hodges' son, Albert. We became great friends. I saved his life once. Unfortunately, he got killed, but he put a good word into his father about me, and Mr. Hodges took me on. I've always been grateful for that. Oh, enough about me. Now, let me tell you about something about these Martello Towers. This one here is one of 24 on the east coast. A 30-mile line stretching from St. Osyth in Essex all the way up to Aldborough. And this is in addition to 79 on the south coast. Now, the ones on the south coast have all been numbered, but these on the east coast, well, we've been allocated letters of the alphabet. And this is Martello Tower U, U Tower. I must admit, the undertaking of building all these towers has been a massive enterprise, I can tell you. We started in 1804. And now 8 years later, in 1812, we're just about complete. 103 towers in 8 years. That's pretty good going, I think. Now, a bit about the construction and design of these towers. The first floor of these towers, access via a ladder from the outside, that's the only way you get into them, is the living quarters for the battalion of men who will occupy the building when in the event of an attack or an invasion. A battalion consists of 24 men and one commanding officer. Of course, he'll be the only person who has the room to himself. You may think that 25 men are a lot to be in such a small space, but it takes 10 men to load and fire the 24-pound cannon and 18-pound howitzer mounted on the rooftop. Now, the diameter of the tower is 55 feet wide and the height 33 feet. And there's a central column up the middle that supports the total weight of the roof. Now, it takes 700,000 bricks to build one of these towers, so it is extremely strong. And the bricks are a mixture of London brick and local reds made in Grays in Essex. The stucco around the outside is made at the cement works in Harwich. And this cement works was established specifically for this purpose. But the secret is the mortar, hot lime mortar, made from lime ash and tallow. So when it sets hard as stone. You can't penetrate it with anything. I feel sorry for anybody in the future who has to decommission or try to take down these towers or adapt them in any way. They'll have their work cut out, I can tell you. Oh yes. Yes, we'll give old Boney Bonaparte a run for his money if he comes calling this side of the water. They say he's got a flotilla and army of 130,000 with their eyes focused on this coast. But we'll be ready for him. These towers can withstand anything he can throw at them. So just let him try. Let him try. Now, the cost of these towers. Well, actually, the design of the tower is based on a tower design in Mortella, in Frenchy island of Corsica. We changed the name to Martello. We didn't like the Frenchy name. And it's somewhat satisfying to be beating the old Frenchies at their game. Well, I mean, if Boney Bonaparte comes over here and tries to invade, he's going to be resisted by towers designed by his own countrymen. Ironic, isn't it? Now, as I was saying, the cost of these towers, they're not cheap by any means. The original cost was £2,000 each, and that cost has now risen to more than 3 times, £7,000 each. And if it wasn't for Prime Minister Pitt pushing it through Parliament, well, I don't think we'd have ever got them completed. Well, I mean, between you and me, I think they're already redundant. Well, there was a time this country was at a point of being invaded at any moment. The whole country was on alert. Everybody was talking about nothing else. There was even plans to move the Parliament and the King. But now, well, since Trafalgar, well, people are beginning to say that it's the beginning of the end for Bonaparte. Although he's still around. I mean, we've been at war for nigh on 100 years. It just doesn't seem... It seems odd that, you know, that we'll be possibly finishing it soon. Now, these towers, yes. If we come in, Bonaparte does come invading, as I say, we'll be ready for him. These towers are designed to withstand anything that can throw at them. Maybe in 200 years people will look back on these towers with derision, thinking of them as follies, or they could regard them as our saving grace. Who knows? I know I've done my job, and these will withstand anything that man can throw at them. It'll only be the sea that takes them. Now, if we ever do make peace with the French, if we ever make peace with the French, I suppose these towers could be used for some other peaceful means. I mean, there's a lot of smuggling that goes on in this part of the country. I suppose the revenue men could use them as a base. Oh, of course, looking over the sea, the Coast Watch can help saving drowning sailors and things. Someone suggested that they use them as living quarters. People using them as houses to live in them. Can you imagine? Living in them. Well, having said that, I have stayed in worse places, I can tell you. Living quarters indeed. Oh well, I must get back. I've got some more went to supervise.
A change of mood. Let's go and see two lovebirds. Margaret Catchpole, local heroine, and her lover, Will Ward. Come this way.
Come on, Margaret. Give us a kiss. Have you not missed me?
Will, there are people watching.
Yes, well, that never seems to have stopped you before.
Will,
Margaret Catchpole, I do believe you're blushing.
get your hands off me, Will Lord. My sister, rest her soul, was right to warn me of such as you.
Oh, come on, Margaret. It's been so long since I've seen you.
And whose fault is that? You know where I am.
Down Market's a fair way.
And I'm often in Acton visiting my parents. That's not so far, as you know.
Yeah, well, and you knows I'm working.
And I know what the work is too. You promised me, Will. After the last run-in with the revenue men, you promised me.
The money's good, and I'm good at the work.
There's lots of things you're good at. Mr. Crabbe said you were the best he'd ever had at mathematics when you was learning navigation from him. You're bright, Will. You could turn your hands to all sorts.
Smuggling is the only way we're going to earn enough to be married.
And what's the good of money if you're dead, Will? All the money in the world won't raise you to walk through the church gate with me if you're already lying dead in the churchyard.
Dead? Me? Nah, I won't ever be dead. There's no revenue man can catch me.
Well, they almost did.
Oh, a graze. Besides, I gave as good as I got. John Barry's still licking his wounds.
Will, you lost most of your crew. Your father thought you were dying. Why else do you think he sent for me? It was only by the grace of John Luff that you were saved. It was him that put you over his shoulder and carried you back to Walton.
John Luff and you, Margaret. I remember the careful way you tended me.
And you promised me then that you'd give up the smuggling. You said that you would go to Captain Bargood and tell him you'd only do legitimate runs.
Yeah, well, it's not that easy. Captain Bargood trusts me to run the goods. And besides, have we not done well out of it? Look, I get to keep a third of all the silks, tobacco and rum that we sell. And it's better wages than plying the ferry between Felixstory and Holland full of barrels of gin. Besides, have I not shared it all fairly with you?
It's an embarrassment, Will. Having all those parcels turn up full of silks and tobacco. We're lucky that Mrs. Cracknell is willing to dispose of them. But don't you realise there has been a price to pay for all of this? Your father has lost his job as ferryman from Harwich to Langer Fort, and my father has had to move farms across Nagton Heath.
So what would you have me do? Go back to shipbuilding? Ply the ferry in place of my father?
At least it was steady, honest work.
Don't you get it, my girl? I love the open sea. The tingle in my blood as we run the lines. Dropping the cargo at the dead of night below Borty Cliffs. Waiting for the cat in the window at Wolverston. Skirting the Queen's Head at Blyford. Look, if you wake at midnight and hear a horse's feet, don't go drawing back the blinds or looking down the street. Thems that ask no questions never told a lie. Watch the wall, my darling, as the gentlemen go by.
But I fear for you, Will. Every time I hear of the gangs.
Yeah, well, the Sizewell mob respect me, and the Hadley crew only ever go after the revenue.
I hear they tie men up and thrust them down rabbit holes head first.
Yes, but that will never happen to me.
But they know you, and John Barry will have his revenge.
I'm called Captain Hudson now, and besides, John Barry thinks I'm dead.
No, he doesn't.
What?
Will, I have something to confess. I'm really sorry. I thought you'd given up the smuggling, otherwise I never would have said.
Tell me. Tell me who you told.
Edward, John's brother.
Oh, you stupid little fool.
He kept coming to Priory Farm to woo me. He wouldn't lay off, even though I gave him no cause to think I actually liked him. I did everything to show indifference. But then he asked me to marry him. What was I supposed to say?
What did you say?
I told him that I could not, because I already had a sweetheart. And when he asked me who, I told him, Will Lord.
You must leave Priory Farm.
I know. I've already handed in my notice. I've secured a position in Ipswich with the Cobbold family, St Margaret's Green.
Good. That's good.
John Cobbold has just married for the second time, and they have 15 children. So I'm to work in the nursery. There'll be plenty to do, and I can live in.
Ipswich?
I know. I'll miss the land. Ever since I was little and my father first put me on a horse and I held on tight to its mane, I thought the land was where I'd always be. But I'll be out of Edward's way, and hopefully he'll forget me. I'm so sorry, Will. Can you forgive me?
You done right and proper, Margaret. It's me that's not done right by you. I know my work has kept us apart, but we'll be together one day. You believe that, don't you?
Yes. Ever since I first saw you at the Cracknell's christening, I knew we was meant for each other. My sister warned me against you, but I knew we would be together.
And we will, just as soon as I can, I'll send word.
Don't forget, I'll be at the Cobbold house, St Margaret's Green.
The word will be from Captain Hudson. I'll ready everything and we'll be married in Holland. Now, I must go. Hold fast, my love. Hold fast.
Will, wait. Take this. Keep it as a remembrance.
Always. Close to my heart. Farewell, Margaret.
Now just a short walk and your refreshments await you. Follow me.
Giles!
Are they gone yet?
Well, for the moment, they're having a coffee and hoping you'll change your mind.
I have a bloody long wait. I blame you.
Me?
Well, why did you agree to an interview? You know I hate them.
It wasn't me. You signed something, apparently.
I signed lots of things. It's up to you to filter them out. What do you think I pay you for?
The Daily Express pays me.
Only because I tell them to.
There was a script, apparently.
Yeah, I saw it. I didn't give it too much attention.
Well, I did. Wasn't a bad thing. A few of your friends saying nice things about you.
Really? Which friends?
Joan Collins, Alistair Burnett.
Well, you won't need me now then, will you?
No, that'll just be the introduction. It'll be a documentary about your life, your inspiration, how you work.
Well, there's nothing much to say, is there, eh? I get up, I have my breakfast, I read the national newspapers, I go to my studio, I draw for 4 hours, I hand you the cartoon, you run it to the station that's put in the paper the next day.
You're a well-loved institution.
Well, like the RSPCA.
You have fans, you know that. They just want to hear what you have to say.
The drawings say it all. When any boy's just peeking and poking, they tell them to push off.
Don't think they'll go that easily. They've got a whole film crew with them.
When I don't care if they've got the Prime Minister and the whole Cabinet officers. I do not do interviews, so get rid of them. And when? Make me a ham sandwich, will you go? And make some pickles as well, eh? Oh, what you waiting for? Do you want me to draw you a picture?
You usually do.
Go on, I'm up to here with it, girl.
Oh, go and see what I can do.
And here's to the 12:30 favourite at Cheltenham, Angry old man. Always a winner. Cheers.
What are you laughing at? You know, if you weren't so popular, people would leave me alone.
Jealous, are we?
Jealous. You watch what you say, woman. I should have had you killed off a few years ago. I still could, you know.
They wouldn't let you. You tried once, remember? If I recall, you had me tied to a railway track. You know, you've never had any respect for me. And all I've ever wanted was a peaceful life.
Peaceful life. You can't wait to get your all stuck in any given opportunity. You become a monster, woman.
Chick, if I'm a monster, it's you I'm reflecting. I've never wanted much, you know. All I've wanted was a quiet life. You know, a tot of whiskey and a day at the races. I mean, whatever else has got a poor woman got to look forward to.
Yeah, well, your views don't mirror my views. I'm a Christian socialist and always have been.
Socialist? My arse, you drive a Bentley for goodness sake. And as for the poor wife of yours, well, I mean, she ought to get her money back.
You leave Joan out of this.
Can't hold that. She was there at the beginning, we both were.
Well, you weren't. You didn't come along till my dear old friend Adolf Hitler decided to shuffle off his mortal coil and take one of my best characters with him.
I was there, all right. Maybe not as I am now, but in essence. And she was there all the same. Should have warned her.
Yeah. Well, I hardly think you're one to give marital advice.
Oh, no. Well, according to you, I brought up 14 children on 10 bob a week while working 12 hours down the mine.
Well, you shouldn't take cartoons so seriously, Grandma.
Well, I still think she deserves a medal.
Joan? She don't want for anything?
Except her life.
What's that supposed to mean?
When were you last home before 3 a.m?
She's got a nice house and home. She's got money to go shopping with. She's got the dogs. She's content.
She gets through 40 cigarettes every evening. And what about children?
Well, Joan and I have an understanding on that.
Oh, really?
There's Vera with a runny nose and a permanent hanky. And George, for reasons not explained, she had chose to marry. They have a little baby who likes to write them notes. A father who was in the war and mother with all her chores. And daughters Anne and Carol, now which one has the twins? Well, neither has a man, it wasn't in the plan. There's Bridget and there's Ernie, my God, a little scat. I crushed the dog and Brandy the fish and Natalie the cat. And holding it together with a matriarchal stare, Miss Grandma with her horse fur and her brolly and her bag. Let's face it, we all love her. She's more Harridan than Hag.
I can't get rid of them, sorry.
Why not? That's what I pay you for.
Well, I don't think fending off marauding film crews was in the job description. Mind you, neither was making ham sandwiches or sitting outside random pubs for hours.
Yeah, well, any complaints, put them in writing. They bugger off and let me get on with me drawing.
But what am I meant to do about the film crew? They're in the cafe over the road, waiting for the all clear.
They can wait all day long as far as I'm concerned. Oh, no, I'll tell you what. No, bring the Bentley round the front and I'll see you out there in 5 minutes. Maybe we can lose them on the A45.
I'm not your getaway driver, you know. And how long do you think we can outrun them? You did agree to this filming.
Yeah, well, I've changed my mind.
The good publicity.
I don't need publicity, everybody knows who I am.
But that's the point, you've got fans who want to know about you.
The drawings say it all, Wen. They're fans of the drawings, not of me.
How about letting them film you in the studio? Just a few shots of you working, they'd probably leave you alone.
They want to speak to Joan.
I'll tell them that's impossible, that she's indisposed, that they can just have a few shots of you working, that's it.
But I'm not going to speak to them.
I'll make that clear.
And I want to see the footage before I agree to the broadcast.
Yes, I'll make that clear as well.
Better still, put it in writing and get to sign it.
Yes, yes, whatever you say.
And when? Makes ham sandwich for you, girl. I want English mustard, not that old French mutt.
Oh, ye gods.
She won't last.
What, when? She's been with me for 5 years now, she knows what I'm like.
If I were her, I'd be gone. Better pickings elsewhere.
Well, who asked you for your opinion?
I don't know what you got against filming.
Too much prying and poking. Oh, I don't want Joan worried.
You mean you don't want her telling any of your little secrets?
She's easily upset, Joan. Like me, she guards her privacy.
Giles as everyone knows, is a country wholly surrounded by choppy seas and duffers in boats and traffic wardens that are hounded. There's always snow at Christmas and it's always very clean. Its pastures peopled by idle cattle, its grass is always green. Its pubs never close, the beer always flows, there are buses and trams and turkey and hams. It's always sunny unless it's raining, the women are patient, the public complaining. The kids do their best to create merry hell, but all of the family get on so well. You think the creator is more than benign, but he has pet hates which you must bear in mind. Shouting wardens, train crossings, plagiarism, magnifies the idle, the Tories, the stuck up, the boring, and those who mess about with his precious. Tories.
I've called a taxi, it'll be here in 5 minutes. I'll take the Bentley and drive it in a different direction to cause a diversion for the film crew.
Yeah, all right.
Well, drink up, I have got home to go to, you know.
Well, if the bloody police hadn't taken away my driving licence, there wouldn't be a problem, would there? I could always find my way home before.
I'm glad they did take away your licence. You were a danger to yourself and everybody else.
I never had an accident.
Not much. You always end up in the sandpit on a night out.
How do you know?
Because it's me as to phone the garage in the morning to get you towed out.
Oh, right. Well, you won't have to worry much longer.
Why? Has your liver been given 2 months to live?
No, nothing like that. No, I'm on my travels. Around the world in 80 days. Well, not world and not 80 days. I built a caravan.
A caravan?
Big enough to hold all my studio equipment. It's like going on a tour of the United Kingdom. Of course, the old Express are paying for it. They said that'd give me a different slant on the old UK.
And how long will you be gone?
About a fortnight. So don't you get yourself too comfortable, lady. And I'm off to London again tomorrow, so pick me up bright and early. Okay.
Okay. And I'll go and see if the taxi's here.
That time you did something.
You're too bad-tempered, I'm surprised you've got any friends left.
Who asked for you for your opinion?
I'm loved by millions.
Well, we can soon put a stop to that.
You wait. It'll be me who has a statue on the cornhill. And your name will be in little letters right at the bottom.
Who'd want a statue of you, eh?
Immortalised. That's what I'll be.
Yeah, and stone and pigeon crap.
What rubbish are you working on now?
Oh, Christmas cards for the RN Ally, then there's the licensed victualers, then there's the Rotary Club, the police, Saints and Sinners, Fairy Sailing Club, then there's all the annuals. I've got charity work coming out my ears and you're in all of it.
I might not want to be, I think I've earned a rest.
You're my bread and butter, mate. Where I go, you go.
You could put me out to grass. You know, you started drawing me during the war. And I was old then. I must be turned 150 by now. It's about time I had a proper retirement.
No, you got no chance. You know, you're my best creation, Grandma.
You know, that's the nicest thing you've ever said about me.
Yeah, well, don't let it go to your head. I've tried to make as obnoxious as possible, but the British public seem to take to their bosom even more. One of the paradoxes of life, I reckon. Well, look, I'm off. I've got to keep one step ahead of those film camera boys.
Well, I better come with you, see what you're up to.
You'll outlive me, you know, Grandma. You've become an institution.
Now you're the institution.
Now you're an institution.
Now you're one, you ought to be in one and all.
Ladies and gentlemen, the coaches are waiting for you. The coach is waiting for you. Out the main door, to the right, it's across by the cafe. Remember what I said about crossing the road? When you're on the bus, please would you fill in your evaluation forms. If you haven't got a pen, speak to Angela who will provide you with one. Thank you very much.